The sun beat down on the Pride Lands, baking the savanna a golden brown. Kion, leader of the Lion Guard, patrolled the border, his keen eyes scanning for any sign of trouble. The hyenas had been unusually quiet lately, and that always made him uneasy. He missed the days when his biggest worry was chasing butterflies with Bunga. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shimmering heat haze near the outlands. It was a lion, but unlike any Kion had ever seen. His mane was the color of sand, streaked with white, and his eyes held an ancient, knowing look. He moved with a regal grace that commanded attention. Kion tensed, ready to defend his home. "Who are you?" he called out, his roar rumbling in his chest. The strange lion stopped, raising a paw in a gesture of peace. "I am Askari," he said, his voice deep and resonant. "I am a guardian of the roar, from a time long before your grandfather, Mufasa." Kion lowered his guard slightly, intrigued. He had heard tales of ancient lions and the roar's mysterious origins, but he'd always dismissed them as legends. "A guardian? What do you want?" Askari approached slowly. "The roar is a powerful gift, young Kion, but it is also a great responsibility. An imbalance is growing, a darkness that threatens to consume the circle of life. To prevent this, the roar must be passed on, entrusted to a new generation." Kion frowned. Pass on the roar? He couldn't imagine life without it. It was a part of him, a symbol of his duty to protect the Pride Lands. But why? Why now? And why me? Askari's eyes seemed to cloud with sorrow. "The time is near, Kion. I can feel it. The darkness stirs. You are strong, but the roar's power is too great for one lion to bear forever. To protect the Pride Lands, you must choose a successor, one who is worthy." He paused, his gaze intense. "I will guide you in this choice, but time is running out." Kion felt a knot of anxiety tighten in his stomach. He trusted his instincts, and something about Askari felt off. But the urgency in his voice, the weight of his words, resonated deep within him. The Pride Lands were his responsibility. If Askari was telling the truth, he had no choice but to listen. He had to protect his home, no matter the cost. "Pass on the roar," Kion repeated, his voice laced with disbelief. "But how? I don't even know where to begin." He thought his friends, Bunga, Besht, Fuli, and Ono. Could any of them truly wield the roar's power? Askari nodded slowly. "The process is ancient, Kion, passed down through generations of guardians. First, you must seek out the whispering caves beyond the elephant graveyard. There, you will find the pool of reflections. It is there you will see the potential successors, those who possess the heart and spirit to wield the roar." Kion's ears perked up at the mention of the elephant graveyard. "The elephant graveyard? That's dangerous. It's full of hyenas." "Indeed," Askari said gravely. "The path to true power is never easy. You must be prepared to face challenges, to overcome obstacles. Only then will you find someone worthy." Despite his reservations, Kion knew he had to follow Askari's instructions. The fate of the Pride Lands might depend on it. "All right," he said, steeling his resolve. "I'll go to the Whispering Caves. But I'm not going alone. I'll take the Lion Guard with me." Askari smiled, a chillingly subtle expression. "As you wish, Kion. But remember, the decision of who to bestow the roar upon is yours alone. The others can only advise." The journey to the Whispering Caves was long and arduous. The sun beat down mercilessly, and the terrain was treacherous. The Lion Guard, however, remained steadfast, their loyalty to Kion unwavering. Bunga's boundless optimism kept their spirits high. Best's strength cleared their path, Fuli's speed scouted ahead, and Ono's keen eyesight warned them of danger. As they approached the elephant graveyard, the air grew heavy with a sense of foreboding. The skeletal remains of elephants loomed like macabre monuments, and the stench of decay hung in the air. Kion could feel the eyes of hyenas watching them from the shadows. He knew they were walking into a trap, but he couldn't turn back now. The pool of reflections and the fate of the roar awaited them in the Whispering Caves. He just hoped he was making the right choice. The hyenas, led by Janja, emerged from the shadows, their eyes gleaming with malice. Well, Janja cackled. If it isn't Kion and his little friends, what brings you to our humble abode? Kion stood his ground, his roar simmering beneath the surface. We're just passing through, Janja. We don't want any trouble. Trouble? Janja feigned innocence. Who said anything about trouble? We're just here to offer you a warm welcome. He snapped his jaws, and the hyenas surged forward, surrounding the lion guard. A fierce battle erupted. Bunga launched himself into the fray, using his honey badger agility to dodge and weave through the hyenas, confusing them with his unpredictable attacks. Besht, a gentle giant, used his immense strength to shove the hyenas back, creating space for his friends. Fully speed allowed her to strike quickly and efficiently, while Ono provided aerial support, spotting enemy movements and warning the others. Kion fought with a ferocity born of desperation. He knew that if they fell here, the Pride Lands would be vulnerable. He unleashed the roar, sending a shockwave that scattered the hyenas, giving the Lion Guard a momentary advantage. Just as they seemed to be gaining the upper hand, Ascari appeared, seemingly out of nowhere. Enough! He roared, his voice silencing the battle. The hyenas, surprisingly, backed down, cowering before him. Ascari, Kion asked, confused. What are you doing here? Ascari turned to Kion, his expression unreadable. I merely came to ensure your safety, Kion. The path to the pool of reflections is fraught with danger. I cannot allow you to be harmed. He then turned to Janja. Leave us, Janja. Your interference is no longer required. Janja, looking bewildered, obeyed without question, leading his pack back into the shadows. Kion stared at Ascari, a growing unease creeping into his heart. How did Ascari know Janja? And why did the hyenas obey him so readily? Something was terribly wrong. Ascari turned back to Kion, his eyes gleaming in the dim light. Kulme, Kion, the pool awaits. The time for choosing is at hand. He led them deeper into the elephant graveyard, towards the whispering caves, leaving Kion with a chilling premonition that he had made a terrible mistake. He had trusted the wrong lion. The whispering caves were dark and damp, the air thick with the smell of ancient earth and forgotten secrets. The walls were covered in strange symbols, carvings that seemed to writhe and shift in the flickering torchlight. Ascari led them deeper into the labyrinthine tunnels, his movements fluid and confident. Finally, they reached a large cavern. In the center, a pool of water shimmered, reflecting the light in an ethereal glow. This was the pool of reflections. Gaze into the water, Kion, Ascari instructed, his voice echoing in the cavern. Focus your mind, and you will see those who are worthy of the roar. Kion hesitated, his gut churning with unease. But he knew he had to see this through. He approached the pool and peered into its depths. At first, he saw only his own reflection, distorted and wavering in the water. Then, images began to appear, fleeting glimpses of other lions. He saw lions he knew, courageous warriors, wise leaders, compassionate healers. But none of them felt quite right. None of them possessed the spark, the inner fire that he felt was necessary to wield the roar. Suddenly, a new image appeared in the pool. It was a young lioness, her eyes burning with an intense, almost unsettling energy. She was strong, skilled, and fiercely independent. But there was also a darkness in her gaze, a hint of ruthlessness that made Kion uneasy. "Who is that?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "That is Zira's daughter, Vitani," Ascari replied, a hint of triumph in his voice. "She is strong, resourceful, and loyal. She possesses the qualities necessary to protect the Pride Lands." Kion recoiled in horror. Vitani? A lioness raised in the Outlands, a follower of Scar? He couldn't possibly give her the roar. It would be a disaster. "No," Kion exclaimed. "I can't do it. I won't give the roar to Vitani. She's dangerous. She can't be trusted." Ascari's smile vanished, replaced by a cold, hard stare. "You have no choice, Kion. The pool of reflections has spoken. Vitani is the chosen one. But Kion started to protest, but Ascari cut him off. Silence! Ascari roared, his voice filled with a power that Kion had never heard before. You have made a promise, Kion. You swore to protect the Pride Lands, no matter the cost. And now, you must fulfill your oath. Give Itani the roar, or face the consequences. That's when Kion knew. He had been tricked. Ascari wasn't a guardian of the roar. He was something far more sinister. And he had led Kion right into his trap. Who are you, really? Kion demanded, his voice trembling with anger and betrayal. Ascari laughed, a cold, chilling sound that echoed through the cavern. You are so naive, Kion. Did you really think I was some ancient guardian here to help you? He stepped closer, his eyes burning with a malevolent glee. I'm Scar's legacy. My name is Zira's pride. Kion gasped, stumbling backward. Scar? But he's dead. Dead, perhaps, but his spirit lives on, Zira's pride hissed. His hatred, his ambition, his desire for power, it flows through my veins. And now, he raised a paw, a dark energy crackling around it. I will unleash it upon the Pride Lands. He lunged at Kion, knocking him to the ground. The Lion Guard rushed to their leader's defense, but Zira's pride was too powerful. He swatted them aside with ease, his strength augmented by the dark energy he wielded. The roar. Kion gasped, struggling to his feet. You want the roar? Not just the roar, Kion, Zira's pride sneered. I want to corrupt it, to twist it, to turn it into a weapon of destruction. With the roar's dark power, I will crush the circle of life and reshape the Pride Lands in Scar's image. He raised his paw again, and a surge of dark energy blasted towards Kion. Kion instinctively unleashed the roar, hoping to counter the attack. But instead of a powerful wave of energy, a dark, twisted version of the roar erupted from his throat. It was like nothing he had ever felt before. The roar was corrupted. The dark roar collided with Zira's pride's energy blast, creating a shockwave that shook the cavern to its foundations. The walls crumbled, and the pool of reflections shattered into a million pieces. Zira's pride laughed triumphantly. Excellent, Kion. You have done exactly as I planned. You have unleashed the roar's true potential. Now, the darkness will spread. The Pride Lands will fall. He vanished into the collapsing tunnels, leaving Kion and the Lion Guard stranded in the ruins. Kion looked down at his paws, his heart filled with despair. He had been tricked, manipulated, and used. He had unleashed a darkness upon the Pride Lands that he didn't know how to control. He had failed. As Kion and the Lion Guard emerged from the ruins of the Whispering Caves, they were met with a chilling sight. The once vibrant Pride Lands were now shrouded in an unnatural darkness. The sky was a sickly gray, the sun hidden behind a veil of swirling shadows. The trees were withered and bare, their branches twisted into grotesque shapes. The animals were listless and afraid, their eyes filled with a haunting emptiness. The dark roar had tainted the land, poisoning the circle of life. The balance was shattered. What have I done? Kion whispered, his voice filled with remorse. He could feel the dark energy coursing through his veins, corrupting his thoughts, twisting his emotions. He was losing control. We have to fix this, Kion, Felice said, her voice firm despite the fear in her eyes. We have to find a way to stop Zira's pride and restore the Pride Lands. But how? Kion had no idea. The roar was his greatest strength, but now it was his greatest weakness. He couldn't control the dark energy, and every time he used the roar, it only made things worse. I don't know what to do, Kion admitted, his voice cracking with despair. There has to be someone who can help us, Besh said, his usual optimism wavering. Ono, his eyes scanning the desolate landscape, spoke up. I sense a presence, Kion. A dark presence. It's coming from Pride Rock. Pride Rock? But that was where Mufasa and Simba ruled. That was the heart of the Pride Lands. What could be happening there? We have to go there, Kion said, steeling his resolve. Whatever's happening at Pride Rock, we have to stop it. As they made their way towards Pride Rock, they encountered more signs of the growing darkness. The river had turned black and stagnant, The grasslands were barren and lifeless, and the animals were becoming increasingly hostile and aggressive. The Pride Lands were dying, and it was all Kion's fault. Reaching the base of Pride Rock, they found it shrouded in an impenetrable darkness. A chilling wind howled around them, carrying whispers of fear and despair. As they began to climb, Kion felt a strange pull, a dark energy beckoning him forward. He knew that Zira's pride was waiting for him at the top, and he knew that he would have to confront the darkness within himself if he had any hope of saving the Pride Lands. He had to find a way to control the corrupted roar, or everything would be lost. But how? He was running out of time, and he was running out of hope. He needed help. He needed guidance, and he knew only one place where he might find it, a place he never thought he'd turn to. Leaving the Lion Guard at the base of Pride Rock, Kion ventured alone into the heart of the darkness. He knew what he had to do, a decision that felt like a betrayal to everything he stood for. He had to seek out Scar. He closed his eyes, focusing his mind, reaching out to the dark energy that now pulsed within him. He pictured Scar, the cunning, malevolent lion who had brought so much pain to the Pride Lands. He imagined the fiery abyss where Scar's spirit was said to reside. "Scar," Kion called out, his voice echoing in the darkness. "I need your help." At first, there was only silence. Then a low, menacing chuckle filled the air. "Kion, my grandnephew? What a surprise. What could you possibly want from me?" Scar's spirit materialized before him, a swirling vortex of fire and shadow. His eyes burned with a wicked glee. "So, you've finally come crawling to me, have you? Realize that your precious circle of life is nothing but a lie. I need to know how to control the dark roar," Kion said, his voice filled with desperation. "Zira's pride tricked me. He's using the roar to destroy the Pride Lands." Scar laughed again, a mocking, cruel sound. "And you think I'm going to help you? Why would I do that? This is exactly what I wanted. The Pride Lands in ruins, the circle of life shattered. It's beautiful, because if the Pride Lands are destroyed, everyone suffers," Kion pleaded. "Even you. You may be a spirit, but you're still connected to this land. If it dies, you die with it." Scar paused, considering Kion's words. A flicker of something, perhaps a sliver of the lion he once was, crossed his face. Perhaps you're right. But don't think for a moment that I'm doing this for you, Kion. I'm doing this for myself." He stepped closer, his fiery gaze piercing Kion's soul. "The roar is a powerful force, Kion. It can be used for good or for evil. The key is control. You must learn to master the darkness within yourself. You must embrace it, but not let it consume you." "How?" Kion asked, his voice barely a whisper. "That, my dear nephew, is something you must discover for yourself," Scar said, a sly grin spreading across his face. "But I can give you a hint. The roar is connected to the spirits of the past. You must find a way to connect with them, to learn from their mistakes, to harness their power." He paused, his eyes narrowing. "But be warned, Kion. The path to controlling the dark roar is a dangerous one. It will test you, tempt you, and try to break you. If you fail, the darkness will consume you, and you will become just like me." With those chilling words, Scar's spirit vanished, leaving Kion alone in the darkness. He had a long and difficult road ahead of him. He had to learn to control the dark roar, to stop Zira's pride, and to save the Pride Lands. But he also had to fight the darkness within himself, to resist the temptation to embrace the power that Scar had offered him. The fate of the Pride Lands, and his own soul, hung in the balance. He had to find the strength to choose the right path, even if it meant walking in the shadow of his greatest enemy. Kion emerged from the darkness of Pride Rock, his mind reeling from his encounter with Scar. He knew that he couldn't tell the Lion Guard everything that had happened. Not yet. They wouldn't understand. But he needed their help. "We need to find a way to connect with the spirits of the past," Kion said, his voice strained. Scar said that's the key to controlling the roar. "The spirits of the past?" Fully asked, her brow furrowed. "What does that even mean?" "I don't know," Kion admitted. "But Scar said the roar is connected to them. Maybe there's a place where we can communicate with them, a place where the veil between the living and the dead is thin." "Oh no," his keen eyes scanning the horizon, spoke up. There's a legend, Kion, a legend of a sacred grove, hidden deep within the jungle. It's said to be a place where the spirits of the ancient kings and queens of the Pride Lands still linger. They call it the Grove of Memories. The Grove of Memories. It sounded like exactly what they were looking for. We have to go there, Kion said, his resolve hardening. It's our only hope. The journey to the Grove of Memories was fraught with peril. The jungle was teeming with dangerous creatures, and the dark energy that had corrupted the Pride Lands had also affected the animals, making them more aggressive and unpredictable. But the Lion Guard pressed on, their determination fueled by the hope of finding a way to save their home. Finally, they reached the grove. It was a place of breathtaking beauty, a sanctuary of peace and tranquility amidst the chaos and darkness. Ancient trees towered overhead, their branches intertwined to form a natural cathedral. Sunlight streamed through the canopy, illuminating the lush vegetation below. The air was filled with the sweet scent of flowers and the gentle murmur of a nearby stream. As they entered the grove, Kion felt a strange sensation, a tingling in his fur, as if he was being watched by unseen eyes. He knew that the spirits of the past were present, waiting to be awakened. He stepped forward, his voice filled with reverence. Spirits of the ancient kings and queens of the Pride Lands, he called out. We have come seeking your guidance. The roar has been corrupted, and the Pride Lands are in danger. We need your help to restore the balance. A moment of silence hung in the air, and then a voice echoed through the grove, a voice that was both ancient and wise. Welcome, Kion. We have been expecting you. The spirits of the past had heard his plea, and they were ready to reveal the truth about the roar, its origins, and its potential for both good and evil. The fate of the Pride Lands was about to be decided. The voice that echoed through the Grove of Memories belonged to Mufasa. His spirit materialized before them, radiating warmth and wisdom. Beside him stood other figures, ancient kings and queens of the Pride Lands, their faces etched with the memories of generations past. Kion, Mufasa said, his voice filled with both sadness and pride. We have watched your journey, your struggles, your triumphs. You have shown great courage and compassion. But now, you face your greatest challenge. The roar, Kion said, his voice filled with remorse. I unleashed a darkness I didn't understand. I don't know how to control it. The roar is a gift, Kion, but it is also a burden, Mufasa said. It is a reflection of the heart of the lion who wields it. If the heart is pure, the roar will be a force for good. But if the heart is tainted, the roar will become a weapon of destruction. Scar felt the darkness because he let his jealousy and anger consume him. One of the ancient queens said, he craved power, and he was willing to do anything to get it. That is why the roar turned against him. Zira's pride seeks to repeat Scar's mistakes, Mufasa said. He believes that darkness is the only path to power. But he is wrong. There is always a choice, Kion. A choice between redemption and corruption. The spirits of the past showed Kion visions of the roar's origins, of the first lions who had wielded its power. He saw their triumphs and their failures, their moments of glory and their moments of despair. He learned that the roar was not just a weapon, but a connection to the land, to the circle of life, to the spirits of the past. You must choose your path, Kion, Mufasa said, his eyes filled with urgency. Will you succumb to the darkness and become a force of destruction? Or will you embrace the light and become a symbol of hope and redemption? The choice was clear, but it was not easy. Kion could feel the darkness pulling at him, tempting him with the promise of power. He could feel the anger and resentment building within him, fueled by Zira's pride's betrayal. He wanted to lash out, to destroy everything that had hurt him. But he knew that that was not the answer. He knew that if he gave in to the darkness, he would become just like Scar, just like Zira's pride. He would lose everything that he held dear. He closed his eyes, taking a deep breath, and reached out to the light within him. He thought of his friends, his family, his home. He thought of the circle of life and the importance of balance. He thought of the responsibility that came with wielding the roar. and he made his choice. "I choose redemption," Kion said, his voice filled with conviction. "I will not let the darkness consume me. I will use the roar to protect the Pride lands, to restore the balance, and to honor the spirits of the past." Mufasa smiled, a look of pride on his face. "Then you are ready, Kion. You are ready to face your destiny." As the spirits faded away, Kion felt a surge of strength and clarity. He knew what he had to do. He had to confront Zira's pride and stop him from destroying the Pride lands. But he also knew that the battle would not just be against an external enemy. It would also be a battle against the darkness within himself. The dark roar still pulsed within him, whispering temptations, urging him to embrace its power. He could feel the anger and resentment simmering beneath the surface, threatening to consume him. He knew that if he let those emotions control him, he would lose everything. He turned to the Lion Guard, his eyes filled with determination. "We have to stop Zira's pride," he said. "He's heading towards Pride Rock. He wants to claim it for himself and plunge the Pride lands into eternal darkness." "We're with you, Kion," Fully said, her voice filled with unwavering loyalty. "Then let's go," Kion said. "But be warned, this will be the toughest fight we've ever faced. Zira's pride is powerful, and the dark roar is corrupting everything around us. We have to stay strong, and we have to trust in each other." As they made their way towards Pride Rock, Kion struggled to control the darkness within him. He focused on the memories of his friends, his family, and the lessons he had learned from the spirits of the past. He reminded himself of the importance of the circle of life and the need for balance. But the darkness was relentless. It whispered doubts in his ear, telling him that he was weak, that he was foolish, that he couldn't possibly succeed. It showed him visions of a world consumed by darkness, a world where Scar and Zira's pride ruled supreme. Kion fought back with all his might. He refused to let the darkness win. He clung to the hope that he could still redeem himself, that he could still save the Pride lands. Reaching Pride Rock, they found it shrouded in an even deeper darkness than before. Zira's pride stood at the summit, his eyes burning with a malevolent glee. He raised his paw, and a surge of dark energy blasted towards them. "You're too late, Kion," Zira's pride roared. "The Pride lands are mine, and there's nothing you can do to stop me." Kion knew that the final battle had begun. He knew that the fate of the Pride lands and his own soul hung in the balance. He had to find a way to defeat Zira's pride, to control the dark roar, and to embrace the light within him. He had to choose his path, and he had to fight for it with all his might. The moral dilemma was clear: succumb to the darkness or rise to the light. The battle began. Zira's pride unleashed a torrent of dark energy, blasting the Lion Guard with corrupted versions of their own abilities. Bunga's unbelievable leap was twisted into a chaotic surge of uncontrolled energy. Besh's strength became a destructive force. Fully's speed turned into a whirlwind of malice, and Ono's keen eyesight became a source of terrifying visions. Kion fought with all his might, deflecting the dark energy with his own roar. But the darkness was relentless, and he could feel it slowly corrupting him, twisting his thoughts, and fueling his anger. He knew that if he lost control, he would unleash the full power of the dark roar, and the Pride lands would be doomed. He looked at his friends, struggling against the darkness, and he knew that he couldn't let them down. He had to find a way to overcome the corruption, to embrace the light within him, and to restore the balance. He closed his eyes, taking a deep breath, and reached out to the spirits of the past. He channeled their wisdom, their courage, and their compassion. He remembered the lessons he had learned in the Grove of Memories, the importance of the circle of life, and the need for redemption. And then he unleashed the roar. But this time, it was different. This time, it wasn't a dark, twisted version of a roar. It was a pure, powerful surge of energy, fueled by his love for his friends, his family, and his home. It was the roar of the Pride lands, the roar of the circle of life, the roar of redemption. The roar collided with Zira's pride's dark energy, and a blinding light filled the sky. The darkness began to recede, and the corrupted landscape began to heal. The trees regained their leaves, the river flowed clear again, and the animals returned to their peaceful ways. Zira's pride staggered backward, his eyes filled with disbelief. "No," he roared. "This can't be happening. I was supposed to win. I was supposed to reshape the Pride Lands and Scar's image." "You were wrong, Zira's pride," Kion said, his voice filled with conviction. "Darkness is not the only path to power. There is always a choice between redemption and corruption, and I choose redemption." He unleashed the roar again, and this time it struck Zira's pride with full force, shattering his dark energy and banishing him from the Pride Lands forever. The battle was over. The Pride Lands are safe, and Kion had finally found his path. He had overcome the darkness within himself, embraced the light, and become a true leader, a true protector of the circle of life. He had saved the Pride Lands, and he had saved himself. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Kion was ready to face it, with the roar of the elders at his command and the light of redemption in his heart. The days that followed the defeat of Zira's pride were a time of healing and rebuilding. The Pride Lands slowly returned to their former glory, the animals thrived, and the circle of life was restored. But for Kion, the battle was far from over. The dark roar had left a mark on him, a lingering presence that he could still feel deep within his soul. He knew that the darkness would always be a part of him, a constant temptation to embrace the power that Scar had offered. He knew he had to make a choice, a difficult choice that would determine his future and the future of the Pride Lands. He could succumb to the darkness, embrace the power of the dark roar, and become a ruler feared by all. He could use his strength to dominate, to control, to reshape the Pride Lands in his own image. He could become the very thing he had fought so hard to destroy. Or he could continue to embrace the light, to uphold the values of the circle of life, and to serve as a protector of the Pride Lands. He could use his power to heal, to inspire, and to guide others toward a better future. He could become a symbol of hope and redemption, a beacon of light in a world that was often filled with darkness. The choice weighed heavily on him. He knew that the path of darkness was easier, more tempting, more alluring. But he also knew that it was the wrong path. He knew that it would lead to destruction, to suffering, and to the ultimate loss of everything he held dear. He looked at his friends, his family, and his home. He saw the hope in their eyes, the trust in their hearts. He knew that he couldn't let them down. He had to choose the right path, even if it meant sacrificing his own desires. He closed his eyes, taking a deep breath, and made his decision. He would embrace the light. He would continue to serve as a protector of the Pride Lands, to uphold the values of the circle of life, and to inspire others to choose the path of redemption. He would never forget the lessons he had learned from Scar, from Zira's pride, and from the spirits of the past. He would use those lessons to guide his actions, to strengthen his resolve, and to ensure that the darkness never again threatened the Pride Lands. He knew that the path ahead would not be easy. There would be challenges, setbacks, and temptations. But he was ready to face them, with the roar of the elders at his command and the light of redemption in his heart. He had made his choice, and he would never regret it. The choice was made. Years passed. Kion, guided by the wisdom of the past and the strength of his own convictions, led the Lion Guard with unwavering dedication. He never forgot the lessons he had learned from Scar, from Zira's pride, and from the spirits of the past. He used those lessons to guide his actions, to strengthen his resolve, and to ensure that the darkness never again threatened the Pride Lands. He taught his own children about the importance of the circle of life, the need for balance, and the power of redemption. He showed them that even the darkest hearts could be turned towards the light, and that even the most devastating mistakes could be forgiven. The Pride Lands prospered under his leadership. The animals thrived, the land flourished, and the circle of life remained strong. Kion became a legend, a symbol of hope and inspiration for generations to come. But Kion's decision to embrace the light had consequences. The dark roar, though subdued, remained a part of him. It manifested in occasional bursts of anger, moments of doubt, and flashes of temptation. He learned to control these impulses, to channel them into positive energy, and to use them as a reminder of the darkness that he had overcome. He also realized that the roar was not meant to be wielded forever. As he grew older, he felt its power waning, its connection to the spirits of the past fading. He knew that it was time to pass on the roar to a new generation, to entrust its power to someone who was worthy. He searched far and wide, seeking a lion with a pure heart, a strong spirit, and a deep understanding of the circle of life. He finally found his successor in his own daughter, a young lioness named Imani, who possessed all the qualities he had been searching for. With a heavy heart, but with unwavering confidence, Kion passed on the roar to Imani. He watched as she embraced its power, her eyes shining with determination and hope. He knew that she would be a worthy protector of the Pride Lands, a true guardian of the circle of life. As Kion stepped down from his role as leader of the Lion Guard, he felt a sense of peace and fulfillment wash over him. He had faced his demons, overcome his challenges, and made the difficult choice to embrace the light. He had saved the Pride Lands, and he had secured its future. He knew that the circle of life would continue, with all its triumphs and tragedies, its joys and sorrows. But he also knew that the lessons he had learned, the choices he had made, and the legacy he had left behind would continue to shape the future of the Pride Lands for generations to come. And that, he realized, was the greatest reward of all. The future was bright, the Pride Lands were safe, and the circle of life continued.